till on Jersey in the stands. I'ma hit you on a slide. I don't never.
That's the flip. You can hear the full song on Spotify. It's by Xavier Top Floor. It's the Fluent and Chill theme song. Jay, how you doing, man?
Dope, right? I'm feeling that. I'm absolutely feeling that.
It's the flip.
Dope, right?
We got some NBA playoffs where we're going to start talking about some round 2 matchups because the round 1 matchups are starting to one by one send a bunch of people fishing. We've got the West, the entire second round of the West of our all-time favorite franchise, all-time greatest franchise, NFL draft. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. We've got a couple of really good mail drop questions that I want to get to. But we're starting in the NBA. I want to actually start with this one because I was actually really impressed. It's not what I expected, and I don't know why I didn't expect it. But post-game yesterday, the Warriors obviously knocked out the Nuggets, and I was expecting Draymond to be Draymond. He came out and said, you know what? At the end of the game, he went and thanked Jokic for making him better. He had nothing but praise. He's so skilled. He's so talented. And normally when you have a person that's that skilled, they're soft. He's not. There's a lot of praise from Draymond for Jokic. And I don't know why. And I say I don't know why I was surprised, right? Like Draymond, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Were you surprised by the comments?
A lot of times, Stone, when you see Draymond, how do you see him? You see him animated. You don't see him giving guys a lot of praise. You see him mostly talking about his team and what his team did and how they dealt with any other team, right? So to go against Joker, we're looking at a guy who I don't know if I'm gonna play against anybody better in the playoffs. So, and to handle myself against them, even though Joker, I think he went 31-11 in the playoffs against them in this series, I thought that Draymond did as good a job as he could possibly do on him. I mean, he had a stretch where Joker was 6 for 25 against him, and I have to believe that Draymond definitely got better playing against him because I'm not going to see anybody like that. Or I'm not going to see anybody better than him for the rest of the playoffs. I doubt that very seriously. So I should be able to handle myself against anybody else. So with that being said, thank you, Joker. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate everything that you did for me. You made me better. And once we get to the next round, I'll just be more prepared. So I can't say that I'm surprised, Tone, more than I am. I'm not surprised more than I am. I'm grateful for him saying that because I think that's dope.
I listen. I watched it over and over again, going, I really like to hear this. And here's the thing. I think
that's dope.
And I go back a week, and I was on Player's Choice, and Draymond had said, some people just aren't built for the playoffs, and some of them were saying he was referring to Joker, and I said, no, I think he's talking about KD. I think he's taking a shot at KD. Some people just aren't built for the playoffs, and now I feel more than ever, I think he was talking to KD. And that's why it's because I heard them saying, oh, he's talking about Jokic. And then to hear this, I'm like, I don't think he was talking about Jokic. I think he was talking about KD.
Well, the issue that I'm having, Tone, is it's kind of a contradiction because I look at him talking about KD, and I mean, you're the one who called him up. You're the guy who called him up to bring him to Golden State, and he was the guy who pushed you guys over the hump. You obviously didn't think that you had enough to beat that Cleveland team. So he was the Finals MVP twice, and not just twice, in a row. Tony, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 11 guys in NBA history, including Kevin Durant, who are Finals MVPs in back-to-back seasons. Not even in back-to-back seasons, just won the Finals MVP twice, 2 times or more. So I'm not buying the notion that Kevin Durant isn't built for the playoffs. I think the problem that we have in Tony, and a lot of people do not want to accept this, KD getting old, man. KD got a lot of miles on him.
That's an interesting point that you bring up because we look at Tom Brady, LeBron James, and we think that, oh, no, guys can play, into their late 30s and 40s. And that's not the case. Man. You typically, when you hit 33, 34, once you get to that wrong side of 30, almost everybody has had not just a decline, a drop off.
Right.
So the fact that I think forget all the other players who just dropped off. And now we're looking at the exceptions, the 2 or 3 that aren't having as huge of a drop off. And I keep telling people, like, look at the masses. Don't look at Nolan Ryan, who pitches till
No.
he's 40, Tom
No.
Brady, who's going to play, and LeBron, who's going to play till they're 50.
Right.
The average player at 33 for 34, forget about it. They're a different animal than they were at their peak.
Right.
So I find that's actually a really good point you bring up, and everybody's body's different.
And you mention that all the time, Tone, about stop looking at Tom Brady playing until he's 45, because every quarterback's not going to play till they're 45.
It's
Stop.
the exception. We always want to look at the exception to the rule.
Right.
Like, any player, any sport, oh, look, they do this, right? They go 100 yards a game, 50 points a game, whatever it is. Oh, but look at this one time where they did 12. Well, okay, that's one time. Yes, everybody has a bad game, a bad series, whatever. So that's why I would say, why do I tell you? I don't like judging players too early. It's only, even if it's 5 years, that's not enough. I need 10. Now, if they're not playing anymore, then you got to do what you got to do.
And you got to also accept the fact, too, Tone, that in addition to KD being 33, because you just talked about guys falling off a cliff, Tracy McGrady went off the cliff and he went straight off the cliff. And we got to accept the fact that 33 doesn't sound old. KD been in the league 15 years, guys.
And he's coming off a major injury that in the old days, that would have ended your career. You don't come back from that. So he's not the same guy.
15 years. He's not the same guy. He's in terms of his skill set, I still think he's sharp. But he's starting to, I said this before, Tony, and I stand on it. I believe that we're starting to see the beginning of, he's not over, but I think that we're starting to see the beginning of the end of KD.
And even KD is the exception because he has such a great skill set that it can kind of carry him through, and his decline will be, instead of being a cliff, right, it'll be more gradual because I compare him in this sense, scoring wise, to Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see like Jordan didn't go from 30 a game to 20 a game.
No, he didn't.
Right? He kind of graduated that because what did he have? He developed that turnaround jumper in the post that kind of carried him through. Same with KD. He's going to find other ways, less impactful ways on his body to keep scoring. So it's going to be more gradual.
Right.
All right, let's dive in because we've had a couple series end. So let's start there. No surprise on some of them. Heat eliminate the Hawks 4-1. I think you said 5.
I thought that they made quick work of them. I did think that.
Anything other than damn, Miami can play some defense. Surprised you about the series? I
thought that not surprise me, but more like confirm that Spo is one of the best coaches ever, and his ability to adjust. So what Cleveland did with Trae Young, Tone, was Cleveland is jumping Trae Young 25 feet away from the basket. No, Cleveland.
Back there. Oh, okay.
Cleveland is jumping Trae Young 25 feet away from the basket with Jared Allen and other bigs. Now, Trae is just blowing his doors off. Well, what they're doing in Miami is we got a bunch of 6'5" and 6'6" guys that we're trapping. And now not only are we doing that, we're trapping with length and athleticism. So when Bam traps you at 6'9" and his lateral movement is just as good as yours, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
No, you're dead in the water. That's a coaching adjustment. And I thought that they did a really good job of doing that. Add that to the fact, Tone, that also putting in the game plan of Gabe Vincent picking up 80 to 90 feet away from the basket and slowing Trae down, which now speeds him up because, I made a turnover here, so now I got to hurry up and get us back in the offense. So I thought they did a good job of keeping him off balance, a great job at that.
The Bucks also make quick work of the Bulls. Now, the Bulls, listen, they had some COVID, some injuries. I don't know that it would have kind of even ended more than 5-6 games, even if they were totally healthy. The Bucks just looked like the significantly better. Like it looked like it looked more like a 2-7 than a 3-6 matchup, but they were clearly the better team, right?
Absolutely, they were. And this goes back, and Tone, you're not going to suck me into this when I'm telling you, it looked like what should have happened with Philadelphia and Toronto. We match you guys pretty well in other areas, but ultimately, I got Shaquille O'Neal and you don't. And we got Giannis, you don't. So everything else that you have, we got it. This thing right here we have, you don't have it. And that's going to be the difference in the series, which would explain why they made quick work of them.
Yeah, quick work, even though they lost Chris Middleton, who now is going to be out for the entire second round. We'll get to that in a minute. The other one we didn't think was going to look like a 2-7 matchup, and it looked more like a 1-8 matchup where Boston just dismantled the Nets. we were surprised that it was a sweep, but you had Boston winning anyway. I think you had Boston in 6.
I did. I had Boston in 6, Tone. I thought that it was going to be a different series. What I saw, which was the most glaring to me, was Jason Tatum looked to me like what Kevin Durant looked like in 17 when he stood in front of LeBron James, when he told him that the dude you saw 5 years ago, this is not the same dude. This is a different guy, and I'm going to show it to you. And that's what Jason Tatum looked like to me. He looked like the dude you saw last year in the playoffs. This is a different dude. Even though 3 of Jason Tatum's, I think 2 of his 3 highest scoring playoff games come against Brooklyn. I think he had 50 against them and 40 against them. So with that being said, he just looked like a different guy. Now, Tone, anybody to say that they have Boston sweeping Brooklyn, I'm not listening to you, because
unless you're a diehard Celtics fan, I might Celtics in 4. Fine, you may have said that, but if you're not one of us, the Celtics fans, I don't believe you.
And you didn't really mean it. You just said that because you're a fan. Yeah, we're going to beat these guys in 4 games. No, you're not. There's no way that you thought
there's
that.
no deep analysis there.
No.
So there's only one series left, which is turning out to be like what you would expect from a 4 or 5 matchup. It's now game 6. Philadelphia ends this in game 6. Do you think it goes 7? Does my Raptors in 7 prediction the hard way maybe come to fruition?
This is nonsense.
Because if Raptors in 7, you're never going to hear the end of it from me.
This is absolutely nonsense. I can't handle it. I swear.
Actually, let me pause for a second and ask you this. Doc Rivers came out and made a bunch of excuses for his 3-1 series collapses. Do you buy into that, or do you
none of it? None of it.
Just said nothing.
Right. None of it. So now you're telling me, well, we were the 8 seed and they were the 1 seed. So essentially, you shouldn't even been there. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're telling me that you shouldn't even been there. But the fact that you were there and you actually went up 3-1 on a team who you said, quote, won a championship that year. Actually, they didn't win a championship that year. They won a championship the next year when you didn't make the playoffs, by the way. So with that being said, you still should have beat them. You had them down 3-1. I'm not buying the logic that, okay, they were an 8 seed. I mean, we were an 8 seed. They were 1 seed.
We were 8 seed. And then I think, that was the bubble.
And then you tried to sell me the logic that we gave Houston another chance, even though we didn't have the home court. Actually, you did. Why? Because you went up 3 games. So you did have the home court. So don't sell me that neither. Chris Paul was playing on 1 leg. Chris Paul wasn't playing on 1 leg when you went up 3-1, was he? Or did he?
Well, that's what he was saying.
God.
He got hurt. Game 1 and 2. He wasn't there, and then he was on 1 leg.
But it looks like it didn't affect him. Why? Because they went up 3-1.
You know what I would have rather, and then the last one he said, hey, the last one we blew. He gave, what I would have much rather heard from that?
Nothing.
No, well, okay, nothing is ideal, but you got to look, they're asking, so you have to say something.
Right.
So you know me, I'm all about transparency and being forthright. And I would say, yep, happened 3 times, and I've learned from each and every one of them.
That would have ended it right there.
That's it, and I'm done, and I've learned from each and every one of them.
We're done. Don't tell me that. Well, this is the reason why we did this.
Question.
No, we're done, Tone. That's it right there. We're finished.
I'm not here to make excuses. I can't change the past. I've learned from every failure you have is a step to success. That's it. I learned from everyone. Next question. And you know what? I guarantee you he gets way more respect if he says
I can't believe I'm getting sucked into this again with you. I can't believe I'm letting you suck me into
this. It's not my fault that he's gonna be the first coach to blow a 3-0 lead.
Tone, don't say that. Oh my God, I can't handle it. I can't. This is too much, yo. I can't.
Or do you blame Embiid? Do you blame the process?
Tone.
Is Embiid soft?
No. What does
he have the mental fortitude when he faces adversity?
Yes, he does.
Prove it.
Here's my question, Tone. What was the plan going into this series? The plan was Tobias Harris, I can't get dominated by Siakam. In order for us to have a chance to win this series, I don't necessarily have to match him, but I can't get dominated by him. And that didn't happen. He almost I almost can say he played him to a tie. Okay, great. Now, Maxey outplayed Van Fleet. Van Fleet even got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are small. James Harden wasn't great, but he was good enough, right? He was good enough as a distributor, as a playmaker, and knocked down enough shots for us to have a chance to win. Well, what's the difference? The difference in this series is exactly what I just told you 5 minutes ago. We have Hakeem Olajuwon, and you don't. That was the game plan, and it was working. It was working just fine, Tone. But now what are we doing? We're going to get cute. Not only are we going to get cute, I think that I can coach just as well as you can. And we don't have to do that. You know why we don't have to do that? Because you're going to get into a coaching battle with him, and you're going to lose. You're going to get into an X and O battle with him. You're going to get into a strategy battle with him. You're going to get into an adjustment battle with him, and you're going to lose. And we all know that you're not very good at those things. So I believe in basketball, there was a term the acronym was KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh, that's everywhere. That's not just in basketball, but
Do not complicate this. And now what's happened, Tone? Doc Rivers has now complicated this thing. And now you want to suck me in again. I'm not going to yell. I'm not.
All right, I'm going to move. One more question about this series, actually a specific player. Is it time for Danny Green to retire?
I've been over Danny Green for the last 2 years, Tone. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't.
Because he's out there to knock down open threes, and he's not doing it.
No, he's not. Not only is he not doing it, Danny Green has also been an all-league defender multiple times. So with that being said, he's also out there to play defense too, and he hasn't done that neither.
Yeah, when your 3-and-D guy isn't playing D and isn't hitting threes, what is he?
Why are you here? So I'm clear. What are you doing?
So let me ask. So Miami's going to play one of these two teams.
Mm-hmm.
Do either one of them have a shot against Miami? And which one do you think actually has a better shot at upsetting Miami, if you had to pick one?
Toronto, and I'd say Toronto simply because of the coaching of Nick Nurse, his ability to adjust. I think that Spo would run circles around Doc Rivers.
I was gonna say to this series, like you always say, they have Joel Embiid, and that's something Toronto can't match. I'm not saying they can match Bam, but they've got enough 6'9" length on the defensive side and offensive side to give him trouble. But they also have, right, what's always been the knock against Kyle Lowry? Well, he's a smaller point guard. Well, same with Toronto. Jimmy Butler. Listen, Jimmy Butler gave them fits when he was a Sixer, but they have guys like, Scotty Barnes and OG and Siakam who their length will bother Butler. So I think matchup isn't as good. And Philadelphia, although I think Miami, I don't think either one actually beats Miami. But I think Toronto, I agree. I think Toronto has a better chance. All right, Milwaukee, Boston. So we know that Middleton is out for the whole series. Does that swing the series to Boston?
I do think that, Tone, and I think that's simply because the same reason why when you take 22 a game out of your lineup, and that's not 22 that you're getting on occasion. That's part of your offense. So now I got to depend on that. And now that that's out of my offense, I got to revamp my offense, right? Now, not only do I have to revamp my offense, other guys have to be more responsible. Now, you just mentioned it to me not too long ago about Draymond Green saying that there are some guys who aren't really built for the playoffs. Well, Tone, it's one thing to play in the playoffs. It's something completely different when your responsibility goes up now. And now I need more from you. And there's a lot of guys who can't handle that. So now I'm taking Middleton, who's a scorer, who's also a defender, who's another ball handler that I have, right? So now he's out of the lineup. So now what that's going to do is that's going to put pressure on a number of my other guys. That means that Bobby Portis has to do more now. That means Drew Holiday has to do more. That means Giannis has to do even more than what he's already doing. Right. Now, I look at what Boston has done defensively, what they did with KD and what they did with Kyrie Irving. Now, I will tell you this, Tone. If you think that the idea of being physical with Giannis is going to work, you're going to have to scrap that idea because that's the way Giannis plays. So if you think that you're going to try to rough him up like you did KD, that's not going to work because he wants to play like that. And he wants to get in there and bang and get physical with guys. So it's not the idea isn't, well, we're going to play like that anyway. We're not scared. No, because, again, Giannis plays like that anyway. And playing like that is playing right into his hands.
Yeah, I think with their length, They're going to throw 2-3 guys at them and say, look, we're not going to let you beat us. If someone else steps up, if Drew Holiday, if whatever steps up and then we lose, hey, we'll live with that because we don't think you could do that 4 times out of 7. And I think that's what's going to happen. And we're going to see, can they? Because the other thing, and you know this, I know this, if someone like Holiday is asked to now step up their scoring, that does take away from your playmaking and from your defense. It just does, right? Like that's why a lot of times you say, hey, I'm the scorer. I'm going to take the second, third, fourth best player on their team so that I can kind of get a break a little bit, save my energy. Well, Holiday's the other way. He's one of the best, or you think the best perimeter defenders.
I do think that.
So now if he's going to work some of that, take some of his energy and use it on the offensive end, that's going to take away from his defense. It's just going to happen, which also hurts the team. If we go to the West, not quite as many. We only have 1 series that's over. The possibly 2-time back-to-back MVP just run out of the building 4-1 against what looks to be the best team in the West right now. Because if you got Curry at full strength, Clay at full strength, Poole, wow, and Draymond and Wiggins. We don't even talk about Wiggins anymore, right? Guys dropping 20 on you playing defense. 4-1. So Golden State's in. Are the other series? Let's start at the top. Phoenix, New Orleans. Is it going 7 or does Phoenix end it?
I think it could go 7, but I think that Phoenix ends it. Again, Tone, like I said, with this Milwaukee series, when you take 26 a game out of your lineup, it's going to hamper you. And I thought that this would be, if Booker had been available, I thought this would be a 4 or 5 game series. But I thought it would be a fight, but I thought that they would handle them in 4 or 5 games. Well, when you take that out of your lineup, now that means that other guys have to do more. Mikal Bridges has to do more. Ayton has to do more. Cam Johnson has to.
Bridges stepped up in that last game. He looked great.
Tone, when I watch him, the more I watch him, I just see Eddie Jones. That's the guy that I'm looking at when I see Mikal Bridges. I'm becoming more and more of a big fan of his. I think that they could end this series in 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7. I thought they did a great job on McCollum and Brandon Ingram in that game 5. I mean, we talking about a guy in Mikal Bridges who, when he was covering those 2 guys, they went 2 for 15. And the reason why is because
FYI, go look up Eddie Jones. Just if you don't know who he is, go look up Eddie Jones.
What he did was the same thing that Boston did with KD. Keep these guys off rhythm. When this dude gets off the ball, do not let him get the ball back. And when they do that for a number of different trips, I mean, Brandon Ingram had 1 point in the 4th quarter. I thought that was great defense that they had on him. But I think that this could go 6. I think it could go 7, but I think Phoenix handles them tonight.
Dallas heads back to Utah for game 6. Is this one over?
Tone, this series was over in game 2. And this series was over in game 2 simply because Luka was out of the lineup. You could not go back to Salt Lake City tied 1-1. You had to take both of those games. Their best player is out of the lineup. Not only is their best player out of the lineup, you guys are at full strength and you have everything you need to beat these guys. Involving Rudy in the offense more than you have not involved him more, which is why what's going on with you guys is just not working. You have not involved him. I've just about had it with watching Donovan Mitchell take bad shots and just be undisciplined. And I understand that Donovan Mitchell is the engine that makes them go offensively, but if he would involve it, I've been screaming this Tone for so long. If he would involve Rudy and these guys more, then I just think that it would open up their offense even more. But the fact that he doesn't, it just speaks volume to his game, and he's primarily a scorer. And whatever's going on with him and Rudy, it's just not working.
I think he's still mad about the COVID thing.
And I think that this series, to be honest with you, Tone, I think this series does go back to Dallas, and Dallas ends in 7.
Oh, but you think it goes back to Dallas? I think it's done. I think it's done in 6. So let's quickly then Phoenix, Dallas. What does that matchup look like?
I think, well, Book at that point, Book will be healthy, and I still stand on what I said about Phoenix being the best team in the Western Conference. I think that they win the West. I think that they handle Dallas. I think that they can beat Dallas in 5, 6 games tops. I think that they can handle Dallas. So I think that they have everything that Dallas has, except they are a better defensive team. And I think that's going to be the difference in the series.
The last one is Memphis, Minnesota. Memphis is up 3-2. Is the West in trouble? Because Memphis is looking like they're going to come out of this series, and they haven't played well. If they start to play like they haven't played well, is it nervousness? Is it first playoff jitters? Is it I don't know, because if they play the way they played in the regular season, that's not what they're doing right now.
I will tell you this, Tom. Have you ever? I'm sure that you've been on a team where, as this series. First of all, this series should already have been over. Minnesota should have beat Minnesota should have beat these dudes in 5
Yeah, you can't lose 20-point leads in back-to-back games. And,
this series should have already been over. But the difference in this series is one word and one word only: discipline, and that comes from coaching. Because there is nothing worse than watching a team look at another team and go, "They're gonna let us back in it. Don't worry, just keep playing."
But neither team looks disciplined. Even Memphis looks sloppy.
And that's gonna be the difference in them losing to the Golden State Warriors, because they're gonna go up against a more disciplined, more veteran-laden team that's smarter and plays smarter. And I think that's why if I had Memphis in 6 in this series anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7. But I did have Memphis in 6, Tone, and I told you that I thought that this series would be a lot more competitive. And I have to tell you, Tone, and I might get killed for this, I think Cat is a number 1 on a playoff team. I think he's a number 2 on a contender. I think he's a number 3 on a championship team.
Yeah. He's not. I hate to say it. Everyone wants to make him, the guy, but he's not. He's a 2 or a 3, and that's okay. All right, so we got Minnesota, and then obviously, I think we both agree. I think Golden State, unless Memphis does something crazy. Although they didn't. It's funny, in the regular season, we talked about how Memphis matched up really well against Golden State, and it would be trouble. But what I'm seeing, the Memphis playoff team I'm seeing is not that same team. So, all right, now we're gonna go back. We're gonna jump in the time machine, and we've got the entire West, the second round. So I will give you the matchups. Let me get my pen over here. I'll give you the matchups, and we'll pick the winner. So round 1, I'm going to start at the bottom of the bracket. And I you know what? I don't know that I've actually released the bracket, so I will. I promised, because there's been people asking. I will release the bracket. I will also post all the teams. And in fact, Dominic, who created this, is going to join me one day on my Fluent on the Farm Tuesdays, and he's going to explain how he came up with these teams. So we're going to start with the Rockets and the Spurs. Battle of Texas. All right, so let's see. Who do we got? Let me see here. So we got
I-35 series.
The I-35 series. So we've got on the Spurs. No surprise on some of these. We got Tony Parker. And remind me if we made any changes, because I am marking them down this time, which I didn't do in round 1. Tony Parker, Silas, Gervin, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili. James Silas.
Yeah, James Silas was really good. Absolutely, he was. James Silas was really good. Duncan, was he better than Sean Elliott? I don't know if James Silas was better than Sean Elliott. But all right, though. Okay. I'll go.
We'll stick with it. Okay, Rockets. We've got James Harden, Tracy McGrady, Rudy T. I think we took Rudy T out. Ralph Sampson, Hakeem, Calvin Murphy.
And Calvin Murphy. Yeah.
I can't say the last name Murphy without thinking Dave Chappelle. Charlie Murphy.
I look at that Rockets team, and Tracy McGrady does not have to complicate this thing, because we got Olajuwon. I've seen Tracy McGrady play with a big man.
Now remember, it's the Houston Rockets Tracy McGrady,
right?
Not the best Tracy McGrady. Okay.
Right. So I've seen Tracy McGrady play with a big man in Yao, and he kind of complicated this thing a little bit more. So with Olajuwon, I think that he doesn't have to complicate it. I think that he could be more effective playing through Olajuwon and playing off Olajuwon, especially with Ralph Sampson. And I think that even though as big a Spurs fan as I am, I think that Duncan and Ralph Sampson will be a great matchup. But I think Houston handles them in 6 games.
So here's my issue with this. From a talent perspective, I go Rockets. And I don't even hesitate, and I say Rockets. But from an actual in-game perspective, Duncan and Robinson, Sampson and Olajuwon. I don't want to say they cancel out, but I think they play pretty close in terms of what they end up producing against each other, right? We forget how good of a defensive player Tim Duncan was. How good, David Robinson, obviously Hakeem, Ralph Sampson. I think of more. I don't think of as much. I don't know. I don't think of him on the. I'm not saying he's a bad defense on the same level as those guys defensive.
No, I don't.
Right.
I don't think that.
So that's why I say I think it washes. Then I look at the backcourt and I think, okay, Parker and Silas, Harden and McGrady. Well, what do I know about Harden and McGrady? I know that Harden is a capable playmaker, but he doesn't want to be. He's very ball dominant at his core. That's who he wants to be. That's why he left OKC, right? There was money too, but really he wanted to, he loved playing for D'Antoni, where it was like, give the ball to Harden and everybody move out of the way and, shoot a three or, get a dunk. McGrady, I'm not saying he isn't a capable playmaker, but McGrady also is put the ball in my hands. Like, he didn't want to share the spotlight with his own cousin in Toronto, which is why he went to Orlando. So I see kind of these egos where, hey, we've got Samson and Olajuwon, throw it into the big man, right? Olajuwon, for all I speak, as you know, very, very highly of Olajuwon. But when he won, he was on a team with, especially the first championship he won, a bunch of role players. And they were like, you're the dude. I don't know how he would react to, I'm getting in the post, I'm getting my position, I'm working hard, and you're shooting a logo three. That might just drive him nuts. I could see him getting in a fight with James Harden. And I think now when I look at the Spurs, see, you're thinking about it now. And then when I think
next time you come down, if I don't touch the ball,
if you don't give me the ball,
it's gonna be you and me,
right? I see Parker and Silas going, hey, we know, where our bread is buttered, and here you go. Facts. And they just feeding it into the post. So now I'm pretty even, right? And so it comes down to my small forward position. Well, no disrespect to Rudy T, he's not on George Gervin's level.
He is not.
Especially scoring-wise.
No,
so Gervin is going to destroy that matchup. And then I also got Manu coming off the bench, who should be a starter on any team. He's probably the best sixth man in history. Mm-hmm. And he's on this team. Again, no disrespect to Calvin Murphy. Mm-hmm. I feel like in a 7-game series, especially because I'm being coached by Pop, who's coaching the Rockets? Is it not Rudy T?
Not Rudy T.
It can't be Rudy T. He's playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's playing, so it can't be Rudy T.
So I feel like the Spurs sneak one out in 7.
And here's the
did I do enough to convince you, or are you still on the Rockets?
And the reason why I'm on the Rockets is simply because what we're going to do is James Harden is who he is in the playoffs, and we do know that. So what we're going to do with James Harden, same thing with Tracy McGrady. What we're going to do with James Harden is we're going to interchange James Harden when we get into the meat and potatoes of the game, like Gary Payton and Jason Williams on that Miami Heat team in 2006. You can start the game, but what we're going to do is we're going to go with Calvin Murphy down the stretch. And Calvin Murphy knows that where our bread is always buttered is with this guy right here. And not only that, Calvin Murphy was buckets, but he knew when to be buckets, and he could play in the playoffs. So I think that he would be smart enough. The question that needs to be answered is who is coaching the Rockets?
If it's Mike D'Antoni, they lost.
They lose.
I think you got to bring back Rudy T. The older Rudy T. You're gonna have two of them.
Yeah,
you have young guy playing, old guy
Bill Russell. Absolutely, I'm good with that. And if Rudy T's coaching, the older Rudy T's coaching, I think that they beat the Spurs in 7.
Is it because you can't? Is it because you can't underestimate the heart of a champion? Is that?
That has a lot to do with it. Absolutely.
They're all champions, though. Listen, I'll let you have it, but for the record, I think it's Spurs in 7. But okay, we'll go Rockets. It's hard to bet against Olajuwon. And like I said, I'll go with the reason I'm not fighting it too hard is the Rockets are more talented. Mm-hmm. Top to bottom, they are more talented. All right, the next one is the Warriors. I can't even believe that the Kings are in the second round when I think of how bad they are now, but we forget they weren't always this bad. So we got the Warriors. Let me give you the Kings first. We've got the older Oscar Robertson, Mitch Richmond, Jack Twyman, Chris Webber, Jerry Lucas, and Tiny Archibald. The Warriors. Can you tell me why I'm saying this, guys? I always say it's Paul Arzine, but it's not Paul Arzine. A reason, right?
A reason.
Arzine is so much.
It's Paul Arizin, as a matter of fact.
Arizin. It's so much easier to say Arzine.
Paul Arizin.
I'm the worst with names. I admit it. Okay, Arizin. Paul Arizin. I'm still going to call him Arzine. Steph Curry, Rick Barry, Nate Thurman, Wilt Chamberlain, Chris Mullin. Funny question, actually. Someone asked me today. Actually, someone commented and said, Wilt Chamberlain never played with a top 75 player. And then I gave him the list. And then I gave him the list. And I said, yeah. And then someone said, what about Nate Thurman? And I had to think about it for a minute. And then I remembered the Warriors drafted Nate Thurman. Wilt was still there, and he backed him up for those first 2 years. So, yes, he even played with Nate Thurman, who's a top 75 player. So I even missed one. I gave a list of 5 or 6, and then I even missed one. So, yes, Wilt has played with top 75 players.
That's correct.
So Paul Arizin, say it again.
Arizin.
Paul Arizin, Arzine. Paul Arizin, Steph Curry, Rick Barry, Nate Thurman, Wilt Chamberlain, and Chris Mullin.
I think that they handled Sacramento in 5 games.
Yeah. How did Sacramento must have? Oh, it's because Sacramento had the Grizzlies in round 1. That's why.
That's why they got. That's why
they got the lucky bracket.
Yeah, they got a good matchup.
Yeah, they got a good because I think Warriors. I don't even think it goes 5.
I think about Oscar. As good as Oscar was, the best version of Oscar was
a buck.
Yeah, was as a buck, and I think that this version of Oscar was a lot. He's smarter, but he doesn't have the wheels that he used to have. Not only does he not have the wheels that he used to have, he doesn't score it like he used to. He doesn't rebound it like he used to. And I think, and add that to the fact that, don't forget, Tone, in Kansas City, Bob Cousy coached that team, which means that they had some turmoil there. Like, Bob Cousy came out of retirement and played. Bob Cousy, Oscar Robertson said he had lost a lot of respect for Bob Cousy when he did that. Came out of retirement and put a uniform on at 40 years old. It's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Are you kidding me? So I think that the Warriors mocked these dudes in 5 games.
Yeah. No, I agree. FYI, if anyone wants to pay another 40-year-old to come out of retirement to play, I'm in. I'll take the money any day.
Not me.
Especially the way they play, the way they pay now. I'm in.
Not me.
All right, you're lying.
I can't.
You're telling me Eric Spoelstra calls you up and says, "Man, we need a 15th man, or else we're not allowed to play. We need to, have a full roster. We're gonna give you the vet minimum. What is like $675 a year? Just come in and help us out in practice. You're not playing?
I don't know, Tom.
Come on, man.
I can't.
You're in better shape than I am, and I'd do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'd be like that. Remember, there's that movie. I want to say it's Robert De Niro, and I forget who the other. They come out of retirement to like box again, and they're like 60 pounds overweight. They got these big bellies. And
Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone.
And Sylvester, yeah, that'd be me. I'm in. We got Suns and Nuggets. All right, so Steve Nash. Kevin Johnson, Walter Davis, Alvin Adams, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion. Oh yeah, because we have Chuck. Okay.
I don't know if Kevin Johnson is on. I think we got to take Kevin Johnson on and put Paul Westphal on there.
I really like KJ though.
I love KJ. He wasn't better than Steve Nash. You can if you want to take KJ and put him as a 6-man. I'm good with that. I have no problem with that. But
so so let me ask you this: do you want to take KJ out? You want to put KJ in the 6-man role and get rid of Sean Marion and put Westphal in? Okay, so let's do that. So let's keep KJ and let's move Marion. All right, I like that better. I'm not a fan of Marion's anyways. All right, so we got that. That's the Suns team against the Nuggets team. Fat Lever, David Thompson, Alex English, Dan Issel, Nikola Jokic, and my favorite player, I just loved watching, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Man, I think Denver beats them. I love Fat Lever. I don't like Fat Lever. I love Fat Lever. He would give Steve Nash hell. He would give Steve Nash hell. For those of you who don't know, Fat Lever is DeJounte Murray. That's Fat Lever today, except taller. That's exactly who you're looking at when you look at Fat Lever. So we're talking about a guy who can rebound the ball, one of the better distributors in the game, one of the better defenders in the game. He would give Steve Nash hell. And I'm a huge Steve Nash guy. But I think Paul Westhead having the deal, Paul Westhead, Westphal, I'm sorry, not Paul Westphal. Paul Westhead and Walter Davis. I'm not Walter Davis. David Thompson. I think David Thompson wins that matchup. I think that they speed the game up in Denver, just like they speed the game up in Phoenix, because I think that their guy is probably going to be Mike D'Antoni. I think they speed the game up in Denver. Either Mike D'Antoni, and I think the coach in Denver is Doug Moe. I think Doug Moe is their guy. I think that they speed the game up in Denver, but they don't speed the game up like they do in Phoenix. And I think that that's to Denver's advantage, because what Denver's going to do is they're going to try to slow them down and play defense. Like they don't have the athletes that Denver has. I don't think that Phoenix has those guys. I think Denver beats these guys in 6.
My issue with Phoenix is, where's the scoring going to come from?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when I look at the Nuggets, we know who Nikola Jokic is. We're watching him play. He's a back-to-back, probably MVP, and he can shoot, he can pass, like he can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who scored the most points in the decade of the 80s?
Oh, that's easy. That's Alice English.
What team is he on?
The Nuggets.
He's on the. So you have Jokic distributing to the guy who scored the most points in an entire decade of the 80s that had, I know he wasn't a scorer, but had Magic, Bird, Jordan, Olajuwon, Wilkins, Drexler, like so many scorers, and he's the one that led the league. So, I'm just gonna say that enough. And then you have Abdul Rauf coming off the bench, who in today's game, he'd be a different player. We'd be talking about him with Trae Young and Steph, and he'd be in that conversation and book.
Yes,
that's the kind of guy he would be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm with you on the Nuggets. All right. Then we got the bye. The Lakers had the bye, their first round bye. So we'll go Lakers and Jazz, New Orleans and Utah. So let's go through the Lakers team once again. We've got Magic, Kobe. Mm-hmm. This is the hardest team to put together, because I think someone's left off this team. So you got Magic, Kobe. Look how many people you can name them with one name. Magic, Kobe, Baylor, Kareem, Shaq, West. Verse: Stockton, Pete Maravich, Dantley, Malone, Gobert, Hornacek.
I think the Lakers handle them dudes. But I'd like to see.
I'm not just saying this because I'm a Laker fan, but man, that team is.
Even though and remember, with Magic, with Jabbar, I mean, the Jazz took them to 7 games in '88 when they won the NBA championship. But Jabbar was over. This ain't you're talking about the Jabbar when he first got to the Lakers.
That's right. You're taking the best version of them on that.
We're talking about that dude, just like we're talking about the '97 Karl Malone. We're talking about you're talking
MVP Malone. You're talking absolutely.
And I'm having a difficult time seeing the Lakers lose to these dudes. I think that Magic, being the distributor that he is, how they're going to speed the game up, how Magic would get Jabbar involved, how he would get Shaq involved, how he would actually turn Shaq more into a defender and a rebounder, and we're going to run the offense from Jabbar. That's exactly what we're going to do. Shaq, we need you to rim protect. Shaq, we'll have you rim protect, and we'll have you run the floor like Ralph Sampson basically did with Olajuwon. That's what we're going to do with Shaq. And what we're going to do with Jabbar is we'll run the offense through you. And Elgin Baylor, Kobe, and Magic, just get out in the lane and run.
And here's the best part, because I talked about it earlier, like with Harden being who Harden is. With Magic in the backcourt, he's going to keep Kobe in check. Kobe's not going to be doing great because he respects him, right?
Yeah.
Kareem, same thing with Shaq. He's going to get you. I think Kareem's going to get you, not just Magic. Kareem's going to get you the best version of Shaq, because Shaq will be like, oh, let me know what to do, Cap. Let me know what to do, Cap. Right? He has that respect of the players. So all those kind of tendencies, I even think Kobe and Shaq probably even end up being forced to get along, because they know they're going to get smacked upside the head if they try to go against Cap and Magic. All right. So here's what we're looking at now. So here's the round 2 matchups the round 3 matchups, excuse me. We're to the Elite 8 in the East. No surprise, we got the Sixers and the Nets, the Bucks and the Celtics, the Lakers and the Suns, Warriors and Rockets. We're starting to get into the tougher ones to pick, because we've said, they mopped the floor with them. Well, they can't keep mopping the floor with everybody, so this is gonna be good.
No, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult.
Okay,
A little bit
so
more
let's
difficult.
let's switch gears from the NBA.
Mhm.
Do a little NFL. We got the draft. I've admitted that I will not be watching the draft. You're going to be on our next show. You're going to be our draft insider because I will be dealing with the Toronto Raptors forcing Game 7 tonight. Or I guess let's go behind the scenes. We record on Thursday. You know what? I'm gonna say tonight. I'm gonna drop this one. We normally drop on Friday. We're gonna drop it on Thursday. So this is Thursday. You're watching us now. Normally we drop on Friday, and we're missing a day. So we're gonna talk NFL, NFL draft. Is there anything I know I want to talk about? One, quarterbacks in the first round, because this is a quarterback just light draft, and I might say something that surprises people, and then I'm going to give you. There's 4 big questions. So do you want to start with my hot take or the 4 big questions, or do you have something that you're looking forward to in the draft?
Let's start with your 4 big questions.
4 big questions. Okay. And this actually goes to one of my hot takes. Both Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield, will they get traded during the draft?
Well, Tone, you know how I feel about draft night. It's what we call check day. So whatever you want, you can absolutely have it. So when I look at Jimmy G, he's got a favorable contract and he could be moved on draft day, just like Baker Mayfield. Teams are more apt to give up picks. Things make more sense on draft day to teams than they do in the regular season, because on draft night, you're on the clock and you might miss an opportunity. Baker Mayfield, or as my man Tone likes to call him, Butter. So as my man Tone likes to call him Butter. So he might look more favorable on draft night than he would on any other night, simply because, well, he's going to be healthy and he did get them to the playoffs. Same thing with Jimmy G. The thing about Jimmy G is, and I'm going to get a hot take. I'm going to get roasted for this. I don't think the Niners trade him. I think he's going to be there on training camp.
Well, you want my hot take on these quarterbacks? And you know how I feel about Baker. Baker and Jimmy are the 2 best quarterbacks available in this draft.
It's not ridiculous to say that, Tom. It's not. That is not
and
ridiculous.
Furthermore, not only are they the best 2 available, but just because the NFL is what the NFL is, 2 of the actual draft class quarterbacks, and they shouldn't, FYI, they should not, 2 of them will be drafted in the top 10. No one should get drafted before 20 of this quarterback class. 2 will go in the top 10.
I don't think Carolina passes on the kid from Pitt. I just don't. I don't think that they pass on him. I think that they snatch him. The kid.
I think they trade for Jimmy G.
Well, for them to trade for him, it's gonna cost them. I don't know if they could. I don't know if they're gonna give up that number 10 pick, even though the 49ers would if you're talking about Carolina giving up that number 10 pick for Jimmy G, the 49ers would absolutely do that. No question about it.
This draft is so defensive heavy. Could you imagine they're able to, the 49ers, your 49ers, are able to trade Jimmy G for a top 10 pick and get another defender on that defense?
Oh my God, that would be great.
Right. Question number 2. Kayvon Thibodeau. Reports are his personality is rubbing people the wrong way, and he's going to slide down the draft board. Top 5 pick, not a top 5 pick.
Not a top 5 pick, because teams are going to be dumb and let themselves get sucked into that personality thing. And, he doesn't really mess with us. Well, there's going to be a team that goes, well, he meshes with us just fine. Because what I like to equate it to, Tone, is Jimmy Butler with the Miami Heat, who they said about Jimmy Butler, he's out kind of crazy. Yeah. So with that being said, there's gonna be a team that's gonna look at Thibodeau in the top 10, right, from 6 to 10, and go, he's out kind of crazy. We can handle him, absolutely, no question about it. And they're gonna miss those teams that passed on him. They're gonna miss, and they're not gonna be happy about it.
I always like to think teams are smarter than they actually are. And
Tony, you do that all the time too. Every time I tell you do that, you give people a lot more credit than you should, man. You do. I don't understand.
And I say, look, he's a top 5 talent. He's going to go top 5. And then I think, well, Aaron Rodgers They didn't like his arrogance. And your Niners ended up taking Alex Smith, and he started to slide down the board. And it wasn't so much that teams were like, he's our kind of crazy. They were like, for the amount of talent he has, the Green Bay Packers were like, well, we already have a quarterback, right? They had Brett Favre. And they're like, but it's such a value pick to get a guy that should have gone number one, to have him down here. We can't pass that up. Let's take a chance. The risk reward becomes just worth it. I want to say he goes top 5. I feel like you're right. I think he's going to slip, and someone's going to be at like 15 and go, he's available still?
What?
We didn't even have him on our board because we had no shot at him. Oh yeah, we're taking him.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, my team doesn't have a top first round pick, so it's not going to be us. All right, we're going to stick with your 49ers. Do they trade Debo?
No. Tell them what
not on draft night or not at all?
At all. What this was a miscommunication. Somewhere along the line in the meeting, the 49ers said something wrong, and it ended up rubbing him the wrong way, where he was like, I'm out of here. And instead of what Philadelphia did with Ben Simmons, the San Francisco 49ers are getting right in front of this and going, wait a minute, hold on. I don't know what happened, but we can fix this. Because this is clearly a money issue. So do we like you at $30 million? No. And you don't like us at $22 million. And the reason why is because offensively, you feel like you do a lot more than a lot of other wide receivers, and you should be paid that way. You should be paid accordingly. And I think he's right. So I think on some level, it has to be made clear to him that, number one, he's valued. Like, we don't just care about you because you run the football. We care about you as a player and as a person, and we're going to pay you accordingly. Now, I don't know if we like you at $30 million, but we can come to some sort of meeting. We can come to some sort of median. And it might take a minute, but we'll get to the bottom of it. No question about it. I don't think that they trade him.
Debo Samuel, by the end of this draft, will be a Jet. And I think the Jets make an offer to San Francisco that's insane, so good that they have no choice but to take it, because they are obsessed with getting a wide receiver. They were number 2 in the Tariq Hill thing. They're already seen as the favorite. They want to give Zach Wilson a weapon, especially a versatile weapon. I believe didn't the coach, the Jets head coach comes from the 49ers, so there's some familiarity there. So I actually think if they don't get him, I'd be very surprised. But I guarantee you, we hear rumors of like a crazy package. Even if it doesn't go through, you're going to hear later the Jets offered this, and you're going to go, "Whoa, how did the 49ers say no to that?" And I think they should, because I think Debo, they need to keep Debo in San Francisco. But if I'm gonna 51-49, he's off to the Jets. Okay. We got some of the quarterbacks. We talked about the quarterbacks. It's not a great quarterback class. The names that keep popping up who are maybe more pro ready: Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, Malik Willis. Will he be the first quarterback off the board from Liberty? Or will it be one of those others?
I don't know if he's better than Pickett from Pitt. And I like Willis. His mobility, I think that his upside in the pocket as a thrower, it just looks a lot better than a lot of guys. But it kind of reminds me of Luka and Tatum, where Pickett looks more polished. Yeah. And because he looks more polished, I think that they may very well go with him. Now, the plus side is that it's kind of like when Sam Darnold was coming out. I'm looking at Sam Darnold. I'm like, this guy is a turnover machine. As good as his arm is, I'm telling you right now, when he gets to the pros, it might look like this on paper. He's a turnover machine, and you watch, and turns out that's exactly what it is. I don't really see a lot of flaws with Pickett. I don't. But I still see Willis in the developmental stage, and he may have a better upside. But I think teams are going to see a more polished Pickett and go with him first.
Here's my fear with Willis. He played for Liberty, which means he played against teams that Liberty plays against. So I don't know. Like we can say, oh, he looks good in the pocket. Oh, he looks good on the move, right? He's got, he's elusive. He can run. But that was against defenders that were playing against Liberty. If he went to Alabama, right? If he went to Georgia, the level of competition I think would be higher, and I feel I could say more about how I feel about him. So as good as he has looked, like you said, I don't know. Is that just because the competition he played? Like I look a lot better at the Y than I do, if I drop in on Summer League.
Well, Tom, did you feel that same way when Roethlisberger came out, being from Miami, Ohio? Did you look at him that way?
I do. Yeah, I look every quarterback that doesn't play for a big name school that plays big colleges. I always say, yeah, he looked good. I want to see who they played against, right? If you play like if it's and I'm not knocking D2 or D3 schools even to that, but I mean like if someone's the best D3 player, does that translate, or can they just go to a D1 school and be great? The answer is I don't know. Maybe, right. But I haven't seen them against that level of competition, right?
Listen, guys get under recruited all the time, Tom. Guys get under recruited.
100%. I'm a guy from Canada, and when I played high schools in Canada, and then we went and played tournaments in the U.S. where the level of competition is higher. That's where I really showed if I can hang, because no offense to Canadian high schools, just the level of play isn't the same. So that's my only concern. With Willis. But I think, to answer my own question, or the question, I think Willis is the first one to go off the board, because I think a team will take a chance on him, especially a team, right? Obviously it's the teams that need quarterbacks. And so if you're Carolina, heck, if you're the Saints and you can make a move, because they have, I think, 2 first-round picks. I think they have 16 and 19 or something. They can move up and say, hey, we're going to take a chance on this guy because we have Winston, who's good. He's not a superstar, but he's good. Maybe Willis can sit. It's one of those teams that has like a gap quarterback. Even Atlanta, I think of the teams. Carolina has Darnold. Again, that's not your guy. So you can bring someone in and afford to let Willis sit for a year. Atlanta just signed Mariota. Again, not a superstar, so you're not. He's a gap quarterback, so he can sit a year and wait. The Saints have Winston. He can sit. So one of those situations where he can sit and develop for a year or two and see what you got. I think one of those teams, I think, is the one that takes a chance on a guy like him, because his talent, regardless of now, against everything that I just said, regardless who he played against, his talent is undeniable. You can see something there. It's just raw.
That's fair.
So that's NFL. So I gave him a hot take. 2 quarterbacks, the 2 best quarterbacks. That's it for me. Is there anything else you're looking for in the draft?
Give me your 4 questions.
Because then we're going to get to our last.
When I think about Jacksonville, and I hear a lot about the kid from Georgia being the first overall pick, and
Hutchinson,
I don't like it, and the reason why I don't like it is because I'm thinking about what you guys have on the offensive side of the football. You got a franchise quarterback, and you need to protect him, and I think that you need to beef up that offensive line more than anything. And I think that going offensive, because I think defensive guys, there are plenty of defensive guys who are great that I could find, just like I can find offensive linemen later on in the draft, but I could definitely find defensive guys later on in the draft.
If memory serves me correct, they have, I think the Chiefs, and it might be the Jags, have 12 picks in this draft, the most of any other team. And so, and it is very defensive heavy. So I think if you're going to make a mistake, you don't want to make a mistake at number 1, but I think you might be right. Let's protect the franchise, right? You might be. Now, they might kick themselves later on, but if it helps that offensive line, it helps Lawrence develop, then it is the right move if it works. And if you get an offensive lineman and he's a bust or he's hurt and he never plays, then people look back. It's easy to second guess, but I see what you're saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Tom. Because when you look at the offensive line, the defensive line, and a defensive player. So if I'm taking a guy number 1 overall in the draft, is he going to turn into Aaron Donald? Is he going to turn into Warren Sapp? Is he going to be one of those kind of guys? Is he going to be Reggie White? Be like
Myles Garrett, yeah.
Right. Is he going to be Myles Garrett? Is he going to be that guy? Now, when I get an offensive lineman at number 1, I'm looking at Anthony Munoz. I'm looking at a guy like that who's going to be a big part of what we're doing in terms of our protection. Because when you get a legit offensive line, now you get to find out if you got the quarterback that you was looking for. You absolutely, because now it's same thing with the Cowboys. That offensive line is shored up. Now what we got to do is we got to continue to develop what's going on here in our backfield.
Okay. No, I'm with the thinking. I'm with the thinking. All right. Now it's time for mail drop. Here we go. question one. It's always people. I wish people could spin their questions to be positive, but no. Let's stay negative.
Absolutely.
We choose violence. The Mets, the Jets, the Nets, all former or current New Jersey teams. What's the worst franchise?
Well, let's see. My Mets won the World Series. They went to the World Series twice in my lifetime, 3 times in my lifetime. And we won it once. The Nets went to the NBA Finals twice.
Back to back.
Jay
Kidd.
You know the interesting thing about that, Tom? Nobody cared.
No,
It was
no.
It was one of those. Who's in the finals? And even though the Lakers mocked them, and then San Antonio served them in 6 games, it was like nobody cared. It wouldn't have been even close to it. Like if the Knicks were in the finals in back-to-back years, New York City would have shut down.
Oh yeah,
The tri-state area would have shut down. It's like almost like nobody cared. The Jets are an ongoing joke. They've always been an ongoing joke. They're a joke.
They won Super Bowl 3.
Yeah, that was, and I believe that my mother was like in grammar school when they did that. So the Jets are an ongoing joke. They went to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row with Mark Sanchez, and since then they haven't done any. That was in 2010 and 11, and since then, I mean, Vinny Testaverde, which by the way, Tone, I had a little bit of a soft spot when he tore up his Achilles because I had them in the Super Bowl that next year with Keyshawn Johnson because they lost an AFC Championship game to Denver. So I'm thinking the next year, the Jets are gonna. Vinny comes out in game 1, tears up his Achilles, he's out for the season, and they got Ray Lucas, my man Ray Lucas. I grew up around Ray Lucas. I know Ray Lucas, but to answer your question, I think it's the Jets. It's either the Jets. It's a close between the Jets and the Nets. Ended up moving out of Jersey.
Well, I think that's what saved them from being number one. And I think when I look at, listen, if you look at historically, just the entirety of their existence, but I also look at what's happened kind of most recently. So you're right. So the Mets, I would have said, if you asked me this maybe 10, 15 years ago, I might have quickly said, oh, it's the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, again, the Nets have had some recent success, like you said, about those 2 back-to-back finals appearances. And now, even though they got swept this year, but they've tried to, since they've moved to Brooklyn, tried to build themselves up. The Jets, interestingly enough, I don't know if we dealt with this on Conspiracy or not, but maybe we should. The Jets were gifted that Super Bowl 3, which technically it should actually be Super Bowl 1. Because they actually didn't call it the Super Bowl the first and second year. That name was kind of coined in year 3. And Joe Namath guarantees the win, throws more interceptions than touchdowns. I think he threw for like 116 yards. I don't know how he became this superhero. Like off the field, maybe on the field. I have no clue. I have no clue how he became this superhero, other than his bravado. And people will tell you that game was fixed because if the Jets don't win and the NFL wins, right, all the first 3 of these Super Bowls versus the AFL, that people are like, forget it. It's not, this merger isn't going to work because the NFL teams are so much better than the AFL teams. And there are people who said this game was fixed.
Yeah.
Talk about that on Conspiracy. So that's your only, what else? What other success do you have?
None.
Other than one that's engulfed in conspiracy? You have no success. Every time, Zach Wilson, is he a good quarterback? If he went to another team, maybe. It's just everything that can go wrong with this poor team, just does. So I'm gonna easily say, for me, it's the Jets.
And it doesn't help. It doesn't help neither, Tone, since the Mets, we're not the Yankees, and the Nets, we're not the Knicks, and the Jets, you're not the Giants. So that makes it even worse.
It does hurt. It does. From you being from Jersey, you know it better than anybody else. And it's funny. I wanted to like the Jets, and you know why I wanted to like the Jets? This story you're gonna like, because as most people my age did, I had the biggest crush on Alyssa Milano when I used to watch Who's the Boss as a kid. Like, whew. And so we were the same age, by the way, just in case anybody's thinking it was back. And there's an episode where her dad, Tony Danza, and whatever, Mona and Angela, they go to this bar, and the crazy Jets fans, and they're banging the table, drinking beers. Jets, 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 Jets. And I'm just like, I don't know why I thought that was so like they always calm themselves down. And I thought it was so funny. I'm like, oh, I like these guys. Who are the Jets? Let me follow those guys. Yeah, no, it did not work out. It did not work out. All right. Second question. I like when they ask these comparisons. Someone crazy said Trae Young is better than Chris Paul would ever be. And there's no way Chris Paul today, Chris Paul would have done better with this Atlanta Hawks team. So I ask you, this is the question, or they ask us, if you switch Chris Paul for Trae Young, does this Atlanta team get better or worse?
Well, this is a very simple answer for me, Tone. Rewind the clock back 2 years ago. Do you remember before Chris Paul gets on that Oklahoma City team where you thought they were going? I had them at the bottom of the Western Conference. Even with Chris Paul on the team, I did not have them making the playoffs. I had them getting dump trucked by everybody. He gets them in the playoffs.
People were fooled by that 8-0 bubble run.
Absolutely. Gets them in the playoffs, right? That's exactly what he does. Gets on this Phoenix team, gets them to the NBA Finals. He gets on this Atlanta team. I'm not saying that he's taking them to the finals, but I think that they're a playoff team. I absolutely believe that they're a playoff team. Now, if you put Trae Young on that Oklahoma City team 2 years ago, no. I think that they're in the lottery again. I think that they're getting motorboated. Absolutely. I'm not buying that at all. I think Chris Paul is a better all-around point guard and leader than Trae Young. And I'm a big Trae Young fan. I think he's a top 5 point guard in the game. I absolutely believe that, Tone. But as of today, I'm taking Chris Paul over Trae Young.
Okay, let's go through the franchises Chris Paul has been on.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts with New Orleans Hornets.
The Hornets, that's
I
what
say they were called at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to where does he go before the Rockets? Am I missing one?
He goes to the Rockets.
Goes to the Rockets, and then he goes to the Suns.
Nope. Don't forget Oklahoma City.
What I forgot. Oh, yes, Oklahoma City. Yes, I forgot Oklahoma City. I knew there was one I was forgetting.
Yep.
For all 5 of those, when do they have their most wins in franchise history?
When he on the roster?
All 5 of them have their most wins as a franchise when he's on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, is Trae Young younger, faster, a better shooter? Does not he dishes out assists like crazy. Absolutely. The thing is, what Chris Paul does, and people know me, I am not a big Chris Paul fan. So when I say this, I have no choice but to say it. You put Chris Paul on that team, everybody else gets better. So even though he's not putting up the stats of Trae Young, I 100% agree with that. But Capella gets better. Everybody just gets better. They get easier buckets. Their defense steps up because he keeps them in the right position. Mm-hmm. And that team has more wins. And probably, look, do they still lose in the first round to Miami?
Probably. Mm-hmm.
But I bet you it's not 4-1. And if it is 4-1, they're closer games. So even at his age, I'm saying Trae Young's a better individual player. Mm-hmm. But I'm taking Chris Paul to lead my team at this point. Trae Young still has time to develop and change, whatever. It's too early to start this Trae Young over Chris Paul.
Yeah.
So that's that. So I agree. I'll put it here. I'll put it here. So let me know. Right here we go. Where is it? This would be right below us. Trae Young, Chris Paul. Today, you're to lead your team this year, right? We're not talking about longevity because Trae Young's so much younger. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the beginning of this season. Who you picking to lead the Atlanta Hawks roster? Chris Paul or Trae Young? That's the question. All right. Mm-hmm. That's it for this week. Have a great NFL draft. Enjoy the rest of the first round of the playoffs. We will be live Monday on TikTok at 8 p.m. Don't forget to check out Xavier Top Floor, The Flip, or you can find him on Spotify. He's got a ton of songs. He's fantastic. We're close. We're close to May the 9th or 10th. What's that? That's the week after next?
2 weeks from now.
We're getting close. We got a big announcement to make. We're going to be live in Florida and Tampa. That's coming on I want to say it's the 9th or the 10th. We'll give you more details as we finalize everything. We will not be playing one-on-one on the boat. There's no basketball court, unfortunately, on the yacht. However, if we find a hoop, we might shoot around a little bit.
We can get some shots up a little bit.
We might get some shots up.
Get some shots up.
Depending on how bad it is, we might post some of that footage, but we also might not.
Clank, break.
All right. So until then,
take it light, but take it.
Yes,
It's
sir.
the only thing we understand. I'ma stand till on Jersey in the stands. I'ma hit you on a slide. I don't never slip.